Limbus Company's 3rd anniversary event is in full throttle, with many helpful rewards being distributed daily for 2 weeks. These rewards include extraction tickets, takeoff modules, cosmetic accessories, and even a new Angela announcer. But the rewards that interest us today are the Nominable Identity Tickets. The tickets distributed in this event are the Nominable Season 1 Identity Ticket, the Nominable Season 2 Identity Ticket, the Nominable Season 3 Identity Ticket, and a brand new 3rd anniversary Nominable Identity Ticket. These items, when used, allow the player to choose any identity from a specific season to be obtained instantly, including event IDs as well. And as such, a very simple question arises. Who should you get? In this video, I aim to answer exactly that question by taking a look at the available identity pools for each ticket, and explaining which units are your best options and why. But before we do that, allow me to remind you that most of my viewers are not subscribed. And Walpurgisnacht is right around the corner, and you know your boy is gonna make videos on that. So if you wanna see them, click the subscribe button. It takes just a second and helps me out a lot. Now let's get to the tickets. Before we begin, I want to make it abundantly clear that this video is unlike my other uploads, as instead of looking at identity ceilings, we will be primarily focusing on identity floors, as this guide is aimed at helping newer players choose their free units. We'll begin with Season 1 and its Nominable Identity Ticket. Season 1 identities are notoriously simple to understand and pick up, as they have little to no gimmicks within their kits. This leads to players just picking up the highest rolling option most of the time, and I totally agree with that. The age-old recommendation for the Season 1 Nominable Identity Ticket is, of course, the one who shall grip Sinclair. Considering his age of almost 3 years as an identity, Sinclair has a pretty formidable stat line. A 16 rolling skill 2 and a 30 rolling skill 3 are both tools that easily win clashes in the majority of Limbus Company's story nodes. His skill 1 is pretty underwhelming though, only rolling a maximum of 8, which leads to the skill often just not doing anything. The max numbers alone don't paint the full picture of Ancorp Sinclair as the new player's wet dream though, as he does have one unique thing about him – negative coins. Unlike most identities in the game, the one who shall grip Sinclair plays around negative SP instead of positive, and utilizes negative coins in his skills. This allows Sinclair's strongest skills to hit the enemy multiple times with their max value, dealing damage that is very significant in the early stages of Limbus Company. Additionally, because negative coins can only decrease the skill's value, your minimum roll rises as you lose them in a clash. This results in self-destructive purge being literally unable to roll below 18, as once you only have 1 coin left on the skill, it can't lose more than 12 of its power, allowing Sinclair to brute force clash wins regardless of the state of the encounter. But what if you already have Sinclair? In that case, your options open up. The 3 best units after Sinclair are the one who grips Faust, Ting Tang gang leader Honglu, and RB chef de cuisine Roshu. Faust is an overall useful unit with supportive capabilities. She inflicts nails on the enemy, which stack bleed count, although you can't really do anything with it until you get at least a semi-functional bleed team. The real bread and butter of this AD is her skill 2, the gripping. This skill rolls up to 16, allowing it to win a decent chunk of clashes, and it inflicts gaze next turn, which increases blunt and pierce damage dealt to the afflicted enemy by 20%. As you could guess, this pairs up quite well with Ancorp Sinclair, whose entire identity is blunt damage. Faust also has a passive that heals SP for her allies. This one is not as good for Sinclair, but it's a pretty useful tool for other teams and allies. Her support passive is also one to keep in mind, as it brings the same kind of SP healing without needing to field Faust, making it a great tool even for endgame bleed teams. Ting Honglu, on the other hand, is not a support ID at all. Much like Sinclair, this guy is here to deal damage and win clashes. He has an 18 rolling skill 2 and a 30 rolling skill 3, reaching even higher highs than the one who shall grip, although Honglu lacks the negative coin gimmick that can lock down clashes. He does have his own quirks though, with the most notable being the third coin of his skill 2. It gets reused on heads hit against an enemy under a quarter health, which turns Shank from a decent skill 2 into a great one damage-wise. This might not seem that easily usable, but the effect actually works wonders against multi-part bosses, as if the part that Honglu is targeting is at 25% HP or less, he can already start reusing his coins, without needing to bring the total HP of the boss very low. His skill 3, Mutilate, also has a reuse mechanic, being used again if it kills an enemy. This one's not as big of a deal, but it is a useful thing for clearing out waves of enemies a bit quicker, especially when they're slash weak. Chef Ryoshu is the remaining ID, and she's similar to Honglu in her strength. She has an 18 rolling skill 2, and her skill 3 doesn't roll that high, but deals a lot of damage to low HP bosses due to its unique scaling. The lower rolls on her skill 3 and the weight are definitely things that put her behind the gang leader for a newer player though, so she's only really worth getting if you somehow have every other option unlocked already. There are more Season 1 identities, but most of them are just bad. The only actually good one, LCCB Ashmael, is a 2-star, so you probably have her already. These 4 are your best options, in that exact order. Now let's move on to Season 2. In this season, Project Moon started trying out gimmicks, so there aren't as many stat stacks to choose from. The negative coin ID this time around is also greatly nerfed, likely as an overcorrection due to the perceived power of N-Corp Sinclair at the time. That being said, the best option to choose from a nominable Season 2 identity ticket for a new player, in my opinion, has to be Molar Otis. This ID has the discard gimmick, which allows her to use her skills 2 and 3 to discard other skills, and the point of that is to discard her skill 1. Slice and Daring Decision are both strong skills, but Wait Up is pretty weak. However, this card makes it possible for Otis to not interact with Wait Up at all, letting her stick to her stronger skills. Of course, this is inconsistent and skill order dependent, but on average you get to use more of your strong skills than you would normally, increasing Otis's damage and clash values. Also, remember to use your defensive skill if you're looking at 2 skill 1s, to get rid of both in one turn. Funnily enough, Molar Otis both has a high floor due to her discards and a high ceiling due to her bursts, as she's very much still relevant in the maxed out Tremor team, providing bursts, Tremor potency, and a bit of lust. All I'm saying is that if you pick her up, you'll end up using her for a pretty long time, so if you don't yet have a new and powerful Otis identity, pick up Molar from the ticket. The second best option here has to be Molar Ashmael. Much like the other Molar ID, Ashmael both has a high floor and a high ceiling, remaining relevant at all levels of play. Her main quirk for a newer player is her Evade. Molar Ashmael flips the usual numbers on her Evade skill upside down, as usually those skills have a very low base power and rely on hitting heads, while Ashmael enjoys a nice base power of 10, allowing for consistent early evades that can go as far as to allow her to solo certain stages. The power values on her skills are not too bad, especially if you manage to get her conditionals online. And as you get further into the game and start building coherent teams with clear win conditions, Molar Ashmael transitions into a great syncing stack juicer for the Deluge version of syncing. And speaking of Deluge, let me just give a quick shoutout to my boy Spicebush Yisang. This ID is pretty awful for beginners, and I don't recommend getting him if you're just starting out, but he has by far the highest ceiling out of the entire Season 2 roster. If you, the person watching this, are not a new player, and you still don't have the guy because you think a low roll in skill 1 is the end of the world, you better get him right now and get to deluging. Although, sadly, I really can't recommend him to newbies due to Spice Bush being just too high maintenance. Now we can move on to Season 3, and this one's honestly quite sad. Season 3 was a time of experimentation, so a lot of the IDs are plain weird and many are heavily outdated. Luckily, event units are also present in the nominable ticket, meaning the best option is set in stone, and it's Blade Lineage Mentor Merceau. Merceau is a poise leader type identity, and he's the core of the Blade Lineage composition, as his skills and passive buff up Blade Lineage allies greatly by providing them with extra power, damage and poise. However, Merceau does not need allies from the same faction to succeed, it's them who need him. The Mentor, even on his own, is still a menace. His conditionals require poise, which is a positive effect rather than a negative debuff, meaning it's a lot easier to stack consistently for extra power. Merceau's damage is quite good once he starts critting, and his trump card is an absolute banger. Of course, I'm talking about To Claim Their Bones, Merceau's unique counter that gets used when he loses a clash with Yield My Flesh, his skill 3. This skill hits up to 3 enemies while dealing pretty crazy damage, and crippling his targets along the way. This powerful skill can easily turn the tides of a battle, and it's the final reason to pick up the strongest unit of Season 3 from the nominable ticket. Other than Merceau, Season 3 doesn't have that many options in store. The best runner-up is either Captain Ishmael or Harpooner Heathcliff, but really just pick whoever you vibe with if you already have Merceau. If you don't, then the Mentor is waiting for you. And this brings me to the final and the absolute best Nominable Identity Ticket, the brand new 3rd Anniversary Nominable Identity Ticket. Based on its description, this item allows you to choose a non-Walpurgisnacht unit released before Season 7, meaning you get to choose any ID from Seasons 1 through 6, including event identities, and also standard fare. Basically, this is the everything ticket, with the exception of the new Season 7 units. The question of who to pick with this one is pretty much the same as asking what the best ID is in Limbus company, and the answer is Mao Faust. Yeah, I know, it's a boring answer, but it's true. If you wish to get as much power as possible from this ticket, pick up Mao Faust. She is the best ID in the game and she's season locked until August, so this is the best option by far. Of course though, I won't leave you with just that, and due to the immense amount of options on display, I don't wanna go through the best IDs available in detail, as there are way too many. Instead, how about I give you the best IDs for each sinner that I recommend getting. Yi Sang has the options of Ring and Wu Branch. Ring's single target damage is quite high, and it's easy to make his skill 2 work even without a proper team. In fact, a random mix of the best IDs you have might lead to better Sanguine Pointillism rerolls than a full bleed team. Wu Branch, on the other hand, has a lot more bulk and better clashes, so he's a safe bet, even if he's one of the weaker Heishous. As for Faust, it's Mao. The answer is Mao. Some of Dawn's best options are unavailable in the ticket, so the manager of La Manchalant is your best bet, with not much in the way of competition. Rosho, on the other hand, has a couple of good recent identities. Mao Branch is a skill 3-centric unit, and she gets a very high ceiling due to being a Rapture identity with Deathrite Haste. Drifting Blade is very good for mirror dungeons due to her keyword combination, and outside of that mode she can provide extra gloom generation and can hold on to her poise, even if just barely, as long as you don't forget to use her guard. Merceau's good options are Thumb Capo and Prince, with Capo being the better option of the two generally, as he has a good chunk of physical damage as well as an unstagger effect if you mess up. As for Honglu, it's Lord. The answer is Lord. Heathcliff has a couple of IDs that can perform pretty well without outside help, but overall I'd recommend going for U-Branch, as he has good physical damage and he's a burn identity, meaning his conditionals are easier to keep up than most. Kurokumo is another immensely powerful Heathcliff ID, but he starts shining when he has Kurokumo Ishmael and a constant stream of triple Last Resonance, so he's a bit heavier on maintenance. As for Ishmael, Kurokumo Clan Captain is the best option available. Similarly to Heathcliff, she wants the second half of their duo to be present, and she relies on Last Resonance. However, if you can provide her with any Kurokumo allies, she gets pretty strong. Rodion's going right back to the Heisho curse though, as C-Branch is her best option, with Princess being a support-oriented runner-up that also has decent offenses. Sinclair is honestly in a tough spot. His ADs are simply not as strong or impactful as many of the units belonging to other Sinners. But if you're hell-bent on getting a Sinclair identity, Thumb has a pretty good stat line and is a Burn Tremor ID, meaning it's easy to keep up his conditionals even with a little bit of support. Middle is also pretty decent at beating people down, as long as you press his counter over his skill 1. As for Otis, I'd say take Mao Branch. Half her conditionals are achieved by being faster than the enemy, and Strider gives a lot of speed. Her damage is pretty good as well, so you'll get a lot of value out of her. Just keep in mind that she has very low health. And Gregor also has a Heisho ID as his best option. Wow, Season 6 really was just full of the most unique and interesting identities, wasn't it? Well, at least they're strong. With this, you now have the answer to the question of who you should get from the Nominable Identity Tickets during Limbus Company's 3rd anniversary. And I should go to sleep, because Walpurgisnacht is about to begin and I need to make videos. If you disagree or have something to add, feel free to leave a comment below and I might read it and respond. If you enjoyed the video at any point, leave a like to let me know and consider subscribing if you want to see more like this. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye!